48 hours ago, I ran a marathon. Today, I can't lift my finger to press the call button for the nurse who thinks I'm faking paralysis for attention. I can hear everything, see everything, feel everything. But my body is a prison I can't escape. The doctor just told my parents I'm having a psychological episode because no healthy 30-year-old becomes paralyzed overnight. Except I did. And if they don't believe me soon, the paralysis will reach my lungs and I'll suffocate while they debate whether I'm mentally ill or just seeking attention. If you've ever been dismissed by doctors, if you've watched your body betray you while others questioned your sanity, or if you think medical emergencies only happen to unhealthy people, listen to how I went from running 26.2 miles to complete paralysis in 2 days. Because what happened to me is happening to someone right now, and they're probably being told they're faking it too. My name is Emma Richardson. I'm 30 years old, and 48 hours before this nightmare began, I crossed the finish line at the Chicago Marathon. 3 hours, 32 minutes, my personal best. I have the medal, the photos, the Strava data, proving I was at peak physical condition. Athletic my whole life, never smoked, rarely drank, vegan for 5 years, yoga instructor on weekends, the person friends called disgustingly healthy. October 15th, 2024, the day after the marathon, I woke up with tingling in my toes. Nothing unusual after running 26 miles, right? Every runner knows the post-marathon shuffle. The stairs that suddenly feel like Everest, the quads that scream when you sit down. I laughed about it at work, limping dramatically to the coffee machine at the marketing firm where I was creative director. Marathon legs, I told everyone. Posted my race photos on Instagram with Jotjul Boston qualified. 362 likes in an hour. But by lunch, the tingling had spread to my ankles. Not pain, not soreness. Tingling like when your foot falls asleep. Except shaking it didn't help. Walking back from lunch, I tripped on absolutely nothing. Flat sidewalk, broad daylight. And my foot just didn't lift when my brain told it to. Caught myself on a parking meter. Laughed it off. Marathon recovery is weird, I told myself. That evening, cooking dinner, I dropped the knife 3 times. My fingers felt thick, clumsy, like wearing winter gloves indoors. My boyfriend Ryan watched me fumble with my fork at dinner. "Maybe you pushed too hard yesterday," he said. We'd been together 4 years, lived together for 2, the kind of relationship where you plan vacations a year in advance. He made me tea, ran me a bath, told me to take tomorrow off work. What would you do if your body started failing the day after your greatest physical achievement? Would you assume it's related, or would warning bells go off? By bedtime, I couldn't feel my feet at all. Not numb, like from cold. Absent, like they'd been deleted from my body's programming. I stood up to brush my teeth and immediately fell. Not tripped, not stumbled. Fell like someone had removed my legs while I wasn't looking. Ryan caught me, carried me to bed, said we'd go to urgent care in the morning if I wasn't better. I should have gone to the ER right then. That's my first regret. But I was a marathon runner. I was healthy. This had to be exhaustion, dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, something fixable with rest and Gatorade. October 16th, 5:43 a.m. I woke up needing to pee and couldn't sit up. Not struggled, not had difficulty, couldn't. My abs, which had carried me through 26 miles 2 days ago, wouldn't contract. I rolled sideways, tried to push up with my arms. They trembled, gave out. Ryan woke to find me half off the bed, crying in frustration. "Hospital. Now," he said, but I insisted on urgent care. Hospitals were for emergencies, and I wasn't dying, just weak, still trying to minimize it, still believing this would pass. He had to dress me like a toddler, carry me to the car, buckle my seatbelt because my fingers wouldn't grip. Urgent care took one look at me being carried in and immediately said, "Emergency room." The triage nurse, barely looking up from her computer, marked me as low priority when Ryan said I was having weakness after a marathon. "Dehydration," she muttered, pointing to the waiting room full of coughing kids and bleeding construction workers. 3 hours. We waited 3 hours while I lost feeling up to my knees. The tingling became burning, then nothing. I kept touching my legs, watching my hands make contact, but feeling nothing in return, like touching someone else's body. Ryan kept asking the desk for updates. She ran a marathon Sunday. Now she can't walk. They kept saying, exhaustion is normal after extreme exercise. Have you ever watched your body disappear in real time? Felt yourself vanishing inch by inch, while others rolled their eyes at your drama? When they finally called me back, I couldn't stand. Ryan carried me, and suddenly they were interested. The ER doctor, maybe 35, tall with a ponytail, looked annoyed. "So you ran a marathon and now you're tired?" She didn't examine me, just ordered IV fluids for obvious dehydration and blood work for probable electrolyte imbalance. The nurse who started my IV noticed my feet first. "Can you flex your toes?" "No." "Push against my hand?" "Nothing." She frowned, left, came back with a different doctor. This one, older, male, deeply skeptical, did a basic neurological exam. When I couldn't push against his hands with my legs, he said, "Stop pretending. I need you to actually try." I was trying. God, I was trying so hard my whole body shook with effort, but my legs were gone. He noted patient uncooperative in my chart. I know because I demanded to see it later. Uncooperative. Not paralyzed. Uncooperative. The blood work came back mostly normal, slightly elevated white cells, which they attributed to post-exercise stress. They decided I was having conversion disorder, psychological paralysis from marathon anxiety. The doctor actually said, "Some people can't handle extreme physical achievement. The mind creates symptoms to force rest." Are you kidding me? I'd run 8 marathons. This was my sport, my identity, my joy. But to them, I was just another hysterical woman making up symptoms for attention. By evening of October 16th, the paralysis had reached my hips. I couldn't move anything below my waist, couldn't control my bladder, needed a catheter. The nurse inserting it said, "Funny how you can't feel your legs, but you flinched when I touched you." I flinched because I could still feel everything. That's what they didn't understand. Guillain-Barré doesn't take sensation, it takes movement. I felt every needle, every touch, every dismissive pat on the shoulder. I just couldn't respond. The psychiatrist they sent was young, eager, kept asking about stress, trauma, attention-seeking patterns. Were you disappointed with your marathon time? Do you feel pressure to constantly achieve? I wanted to scream that my only stress was being paralyzed while doctors psychoanalyzed me, but my voice was getting weaker too. The paralysis was climbing. Ryan fought for me, demanded specialists, second opinions, real tests. They threatened to have him removed for aggressive behavior. He wasn't aggressive. He was terrified. He'd watched me go from marathon runner to unable to sit up in 36 hours, and they were prescribing antidepressants. The neurologist on call finally saw me at 11 p.m. Dr. James Morrison, according to his badge, though he never introduced himself. Spent 5 minutes, did the bare minimum reflexes test, announced psychosomatic paralysis, and left. Didn't do an EMG, didn't test nerve conduction, didn't even consider Guillain-Barré despite me presenting with textbook symptoms. What would you have done in Ryan's position? Accepted the experts, or trusted what you were seeing? That night, my arms started failing. First the fingers, then the hands, then the forearms. I watched them disappear like watching tide go out, inevitable and unstoppable. The night nurse found me crying, unable to wipe my own tears. Anxiety can manifest physically, she said gently, like she was talking to a child. Once you accept what's happening emotionally, your body will release. I whispered, because my voice was fading too. Please test for Guillain-Barré. She patted my hand, the one I couldn't move. Honey, that's incredibly rare. You're young, healthy, athletic. This is psychological. The mind is powerful. October 17th, dawn. 36 hours since my first symptom. I couldn't move anything below my shoulders, could barely whisper. Ryan had been Googling all night, found Guillain-Barré syndrome, printed articles, demanded they test for it. Security escorted him out for disturbing medical staff. My boyfriend, the only person fighting for me, banned from my room while I slowly suffocated. Here's what people don't understand about Guillain-Barré. Your immune system attacks your peripheral nerves after an infection or trigger. Sometimes it's food poisoning, sometimes a respiratory infection, sometimes extreme physical stress like, say, running a marathon. The antibodies meant to fight infection get confused, attack the myelin sheath protecting your nerves, like your body's electrical system shorting out, one wire at a time. By noon, October 17th, I couldn't turn my head. The paralysis had reached my neck, was approaching my diaphragm. Each breath was shallower, harder, like breathing through a straw that kept getting narrower. The oxygen monitor started alarming, levels dropping, 92%, 90%, 88%. The day doctor, different from yesterday, finally got concerned. Not about paralysis, about respiratory distress. Ordered a chest x-ray, checking for pneumonia, collapsed lung, anything but the obvious. When it came back clear, he was puzzled. Physically, your lungs are fine. This seems anxiety-related. We'll try Ativan. They gave me anxiety medication while I was suffocating from paralysis. The Ativan made me drowsy, but didn't help me breathe, because anxiety wasn't crushing my lungs, paralysis was. My diaphragm was failing. The muscle that had powered me through 26 miles was giving up. A different nurse, older, experienced, watched my breathing pattern and suddenly went pale. She grabbed a doctor, not the dismissive one. Someone new. Look at her breathing pattern. That's not anxiety. That's respiratory muscle failure. Finally, someone who knew the difference between panic and paralysis. This doctor, a woman whose name I never learned, immediately ordered an EMG and nerve conduction study. The technician who performed it kept saying, "Oh my God," as he looked at the results. My nerve conduction was almost zero. The electrical signals from brain to muscles were being blocked all along my peripheral nervous system. Classic, textbook, unmistakable Guillain-Barré syndrome. The same doctors who'd called me hysterical were suddenly running, shouting orders, preparing for intubation. Because untreated Guillain-Barré kills you when the paralysis reaches your lungs and heart. I was hours, maybe minutes from respiratory failure, and they'd wasted 2 days on psychiatry. Do you understand how it feels to be dying while people debate whether you're mentally ill? To feel your body shutting down while medical professionals, the people trained to save you, dismiss you as attention-seeking? They started IVIG treatment immediately, intravenous immunoglobulin, to stop my immune system's attack. But damage was done. The paralysis had progressed for 48 hours unchecked. I needed a ventilator to breathe, a feeding tube to eat, complete life support, while my body hopefully, maybe, possibly recovered. I spent 3 weeks on a ventilator, conscious but unable to move anything except my eyes. Locked-in syndrome, they call it. Though with Guillain-Barré, it's usually temporary. Usually. Some people never fully recover. The doctors who'd dismissed me now avoided my room, sent residents instead. No apologies, no acknowledgement that their bias nearly killed me. Ryan wasn't allowed back for 48 hours after his aggressive behavior. When he finally saw me, intubated and completely paralyzed, he broke down. I knew something was wrong. I knew it. Why didn't they listen? He blamed himself for not fighting harder, for letting them remove him. I blinked twice for "I love you," our only communication system for weeks. Physical therapy started while I was still on the ventilator. Passive movements to prevent muscle atrophy, joint contractures. The therapist would move my legs, arms, fingers, narrating each movement like I was unconscious. I was fully aware, desperately trying to move, to help, to do anything. Nothing responded. Week 4, a finger twitched. Not much, barely visible, but the nurse saw it. "Did you do that on purpose?" One blink for yes. She cried. Actually cried. "You're coming back," she said. And slowly, agonizingly, I was. Guillain-Barré recovery isn't linear. Some days I'd move a toe, next day nothing. The myelin sheath has to regrow, nerves have to reconnect, and it happens at its own pace. Week 6, I could shrug slightly. Week 8, squeeze Ryan's hand weakly. Week 10, I was finally off the ventilator, breathing on my own, though every breath was exhausting. The hospital bill was $847,000. Insurance covered most, but even 20% of that is devastating. The months of physical therapy after weren't fully covered. I lost my job. Can't be creative director from a hospital bed. Lost my apartment. Couldn't pay rent on disability payments. Lost my identity as an athlete, maybe forever. But here's what makes me angriest. I was textbook Guillain-Barré. Ascending paralysis, starting in feet, moving upward. Recent physical stress as trigger. Young, healthy patient with sudden onset. Any medical student would have recognized it, but actual doctors were so convinced a marathon runner couldn't have a neurological emergency, they nearly let me die. How many people have died from dismissal? From doctors deciding they know what you are before examining who you are? It's been 6 months now. I can walk with a walker for short distances. My hands work, but I drop things. I get exhausted brushing my teeth. The marathon runner who qualified for Boston now celebrates walking to the mailbox. Recovery could take years, might never be complete. 30% of Guillain-Barré patients have permanent weakness. Ryan stayed. Through the ventilator, the months of physical therapy, the depression, the rage. He says he fell in love with my mind, not just my body, but I know he misses the woman who ran beside him. We don't talk about running anymore. I donated all my medals except Chicago. That one sits on my dresser, a reminder of the last day I was whole. The hospital never apologized. The original ER doctor who wrote uncooperative never acknowledged her mistake. Dr. Morrison, the neurologist who diagnosed psychosomatic paralysis without proper testing, still practices. I filed complaints, but the medical board said misdiagnosis happens and no permanent harm was done. No permanent harm. I'm 30 years old in a 30-year-old body that moves like it's 90. I started a support group for people with invisible illnesses, people whose symptoms were dismissed, whose pain was questioned. We meet monthly, share stories of medical gaslighting. There are dozens of us just in my city. The marathon runner called hysterical. The teenager told her joint pain was growing pains until her bones started breaking. The man whose heart attack was anxiety until he coded. If you're reading this and your body is telling you something's wrong, trust it. If doctors dismiss you, find new doctors. If they call you dramatic, Be more dramatic. If they threaten to remove your advocate, call a lawyer. Your body knows when it's dying, even when tests look normal. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. To the medical professionals reading this, when someone says they can't move, believe them. When an athlete suddenly can't walk, investigate. When paralysis is ascending, think Guillain-Barré. It's rare, but it's real, and dismissing it as psychological can kill. Your bias, your assumptions, your incredulity, they have body counts. I may never run another marathon, may never run at all. But I survived medical negligence, survived being dismissed, survived my own immune system trying to kill me. That's its own kind of endurance event. One with no medal, no finish line, no cheering crowds. Just the quiet victory of proving you were never faking, were never weak, were never lying. Some days I dream about running. In those dreams, I'm not fast or strong. I'm just moving, my body responding to my will like it used to. I wake up, and for a moment, before I try to move, I forget I'm broken. Then reality returns with the effort of sitting up, the struggle of standing, the marathon of making breakfast. Would you have fought harder, advocated louder, or would you have trusted the experts who said it was all in your head? This is Emma Richardson, former marathon runner, current Guillain-Barré survivor. Living proof that you can go from peak physical condition to complete paralysis in 48 hours. And the biggest obstacle to survival might not be the disease, but the doctors who refuse to believe it exists. If my story saves one person from being dismissed, from being called hysterical while their body fails, then this nightmare meant something. Share this not for me, but for the next person who'll be told they're faking while they're dying. Because it's happening right now, in some ER, to someone just like me. Remember, your body knows. Even when every test says you're fine, even when doctors say you're crazy, even when you start doubting yourself, your body knows. Listen to it. Fight for it. And never ever let anyone convince you that paralysis is all in your head.